hear of Zambians getting scammed. I'm like, it's not the first time. You know what I mean? You have been scammed by so many things. If anything, you are what is known as a gullible person. That's a Zambian, just generally. You are a very gullible person.
Because the journey that you must take to kind of start shedding off some of those things that you say yes to. Using muscle memory.
Buana. Bazungu. You are very gullible as a person.
Very,
That's why I don't get surprised when things like Day of National Prayer, when they work on the Zambian, it's like, that's cool. It's very gullible people. Speaking of which, we did not introduce ourselves. Welcome to the Kachasu Philosophers. Welcome to the Kachasu Philosophers. This is the 3rd episode. My name is Critic. I am here with Moto Chisha.
Yeah, thank you for saying my name because you remember I always find it weird saying my own name. I'd rather write it down.
This is what I'm here for. This is what I'm here for. A philosopher among philosophers. A philosopher from Chingola. A place of few philosophers. Actually, there's actually a lot.
There are many. I think that there's a certain and this is a funny thing, is that I couldn't really see the madness when I was there and when I left and I'm here. I couldn't really see the madness, but now I am able to see it because I've grown a little bit older, so I'm able to establish patterns. That's why. What's happening?
I saw you run to cut her off.
Because this is what I want to say. Look, we shouldn't spend so much time just talking about a very simple
things.
Yes. You've communicated to me what the case is. I have understood and I have responded. The rest that follows thereafter is totally unnecessary. I don't think I have the time that you have. Or I don't think, you have the time that I have,
Zambians come from getting used to thinking people are not going to understand them. Or, you know what I mean? Masters, do you understand? This is why you have got euphemisms You're just a product. You're just a product of punishment. This is why that person felt like she had to explain in entirety the situation.
Well, this is where I even wanted to say that I kind of encounter a very unique sense of wanting others to understand you. So, for example, if you don't do something that you were supposed to do, but then you have a reason behind it.
The explanation.
The explanation.
No, you don't understand.
So when you give that explanation, it almost feels like the person should then understand and should be with me on this one. This problem has been resolved.
You're obligated. You're party in this. Me, I'll give an excuse. You understand.
And it so happens as well loudly in the money lending business that when someone fails to pay you back, they always run to this default of explaining to you exactly what has happened and what has caused this delay or failure to pay. And therefore, I should understand, as though what I gave them was an understanding. Like I gave you an actual product. So I don't know why you're bringing metaphysics here.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? And I often do say that. I said, but what are you talking about? And then they don't understand that I'm asking them, because you cannot involve me in your business. That does not mean that then I have done my business. There's my business that remains.
If I'm to understand this, you should have told me this as you were borrowing the money. Na ikuataka utuma problems to Amusango.
So,
In the event that I fail to pay you, it's either kunchto na makomera kok store. You know what I mean? That's the only situation in which someone can tell you, okay, you did tell me.
Yeah.
But that's also just for some leeway.
That is what you call a real risk. Not this risk that we take without information.
Yeah, it was your risk.
Yes.
Sometimes but I need 30,000 now. What's up to you now to risk that 30,000?
Yes, that's a real risk. That is a real
You guys
risk.
sometimes.
Yeah. I think you know today is your episode.
Why?
You are the philosopher.
No, actually, I wanted to turn this episode to a whole other discussion. First of all,
Talk to me.
I'm who else? There's just the two of us in this bar.
There's a cat here as well.
The cat doesn't anyway. So, episode 1 was a little haphazard.
Yeah.
The second episode, I personally learned a lot.
Oh.
Right? The second episode sort of spilled over into my life and my relationship. Because unfortunately, my significant other was listening to us record.
Oh, yeah.
And the whole time we're recording, have you ever heard someone nodding?
You heard them nod.
I could hear those to my earrings.
My guy,
So it really, you know, it threw me for a curve because I had to discuss the events of the episode outside the episode, but also it made me realize.
Hold on. I actually thought you were quite brave to allow the recording of that episode.
Anything for content.
You know, yeah.
Anything for content.
I mean, I was like, okay.
Content over anything. Anything for content.
There is a channel.
I will go to the end of the earth to bring you guys the best content in the world. Look out for my live streaming of my divorce. We'll be there. We're trying to get 1 million likes.
But you were on a track. You were saying something.
Yes, I was saying, and it actually taught me something. I actually went back and thought about something, and I've begun to employ a few of the things we discussed, but just a few. Don't get it twisted. I'm still trash man 101, but just a few things like greeting guy in the morning. You know what I mean?
Nice, my guy.
You know what I mean?
Hey,
you know, just one or two things. You know, let's say Mochala Bela this morning. Good morning. How are you?
How are you? You good?
Slept well? You know,
never broke my life.
anything for content.
You know.
The discussion I wanted today, we've gone 10 minutes without actually talking about what we wanted to talk about. The discussion I wanted to have today is deconstructing religion.
This is the most
Question
interesting.
number 1. Why is religion?
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you for giving me somewhere to start. And you know exactly how to. That's the beauty.
Professional.
You know, why is religion is a very important question, and not what is religion.
Why?
Because the reason why religion is because religion is technology.
Okay.
Technology is basically tools we just use to operate and have a better understanding of the world. Religion was one of the first tools for humanity, and it was conceived at a time, you can imagine, we knew very little about reality. So, simple example of seeing lightning strike, would create such a mystery, in your mind, because you don't even know electricity. Definitely this what is this and it sounds with so much wrath, because the rumble follows thereafter.
It makes a sound
what is that? Yes, exactly. So you have a lot of questions about reality because you are new to existence. So in trying to break down reality, you would put a pin in some of these things. And the pin would be to simply put an end answer. Yes. Which is that everything is because there is something greater than
what we are.
So
a theory.
Yes. Not a theory, a hypothesis. And we ran with it for a very long time to try and understand the world in which we are living in. When you look up at night in the skies, you see the stars, or you see the clouds, the blue, you see the sun. These are marvelous things, because the question is, what are you in if you don't even know what air is? What are you in if you don't even know what the earth looks like from outside, because you can't go outside of it? What is your interpretation of this thing that you are in and this consciousness that you are experiencing? It baffled early man. It was such great thinking at a time.
Early man.
Yes.
You guys aren't anywhere any closer than early man. You just named a few things. But you're exactly where early man is.
So, why religion is because we had lots and lots of questions that needed answers, and we could not arrive at these answers, and so we'll just put a pin in some of them, and the pin would be, there is something that is greater than us that obviously has willed this. You place your own consciousness outside of where you are, and you say you are looking after yourself. You are therefore a God. It was only sensible that we had to anthropomize it. Anthropoformize. What's the word?
Anthropoformize.
Anthropomize. Anthropomorphosis.
Okay. Okay. That's the name of the episode. Yeah. Anthropomorphize. Just give me some vibes.
Yeah. We noted a lot of great entities we could not understand, decode. You find a big mountain, a big rock, a big tree, a body of water, a big animal, and you would turn those things into gods, what you would call gods, because they seemed to be looking after your existence, and they were quite stagnant, had more of a presence. So obviously maybe a god has embodied themselves into this feature that we are able to see.
Hinduism.
So easily ran with those. So we developed religion over a long period of time, and it was step by step, from moving from worshipping the sun, because yes, it was that one constant thing that would come after many cycles of time, and it would cause you to see around, and when it was dangerous, now it is no longer. It's like watching a horror movie. You pray for daylight.
Very few horror movies happen during the day.
You pray to that. They just walked outside the house into the woods. When they left the house.
How did we end up here?
How did we so we've built religion over a long period of time. So there has been some transformation in it, because even the stories that now get written about adopted stories from earlier times as well, where they told the very same stories, but they needed to transform these gods into anthropomorphic entities that they could bounce off, because going to worship a rock is kind of pointless. It's not going to give you any feedback. Yes. So if you were to then form a real God, it would have to be something with consciousness like you, where you would actually bounce off. But imagine, what if God wasn't conscious and wasn't even any of that?
Before we jump there, you're saying you would have to create something that gives you some kind of feedback.
Yes.
What feedback do you think they received to give them the go ahead?
It is in the anthropomorphosis. This word, we need to throw it away.
No more. It's in the naming of things.
Indeed. What did you say? What did you ask?
What feedback?
Or what feedback
do you think man received in the different various areas for him to say, no, for real, this theory we have, this, what did you call it? Not theory, thesis? Hypothesis that we have stumbled upon, that our existence is due to a higher being, must be true. What data do you think, to break it down a bit,
Well, you see, that's the interesting thing, is that we treat religion as though it is physical reality. When you talk about the supernatural, what is supernatural? There is no such thing as supernatural. Let's just start from there. There is nothing that is supernatural. Because what they say is supernatural is something that exists in a higher dimension. But then what evidence do you have for something that exists in a higher dimension that you don't interact with? What is it? The point is, if, for example, we had witches, Indosh, and they were flying on brooms, that would not be supernatural. That would be natural. Because it is happening in nature. If it is possible here, then it is natural. As long as it happens here, it is natural. So you find that you will never find any evidence for the supernatural. Because it is something that comes out of one's mind. And this is where it's at. That religion tries to pit itself in the real world and it fails. Why? Because it is something that is a conception from our imagination. It is not in this reality.
Not in this world.
That's why I don't even have religious arguments anymore. Because it is actually pointless. You have absolutely no data whatsoever to back your claim. I have zero data. Zero data.
So this is why I'm asking you. See, we are arriving at the same thing. That's shocking me, right? You are earlier on saying religion. How did you explain it? You said it in a very interesting way. You said it like, it's like creating a concept.
Yes.
Right? It's like creating a what do you call it? Hypothesis, like you said, right?
Yeah.
So we created a God, right? So to create a God, you create a supernatural being that interacts with you.
You know why you are making it supernatural?
Now my question, before we go to the supernatural part, is what interaction do you think mankind had? Right? Because this happened on a global scale.
So,
in different shapes and forms.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It happened on a global scale. What do you think informed their religion? Guys, they they're just
the answer is simple. The answer is simple. What does a brain create?
Patterns.
No. brain. Yeah, you can't answer this question.
Okay.
It's a general question.
But not just Skype. And I'm correct. Yes, sir.
A brain creates a mind.
Okay.
And the mind is limitless in what it can fathom and what it can conjure. Your mind is limited by your environment. That is the reason why we have also built things like virtual reality. If we were able to transcend and start to exist in virtual reality, it would simply mean that you would do absolutely anything. You would float, you would, bend, turn a rock into, bread, you would literally do anything.
There's
because the mind...
There's someone who's listening to this right now saying, but my grandparents used to float.
Yeah, I mean...
all those things you have said describing I believe they happen on this plane of existence.
So,
my grandfather flies, my grandmother came back from the dead.
You know what sometimes we people use as a coping mechanism to life is to simply tell yourself a lie and then just completely believe it. So you tell it to yourself over and over until you believe it.
Your reality.
And there are a lot of lies that we have told ourselves, and this is how we kind of live life. And what that simply means is that you must somehow be very careful with what your mind creates. Because just because it creates does not mean that then exists in reality. You will find that it is not present. And so you end up in an argument that is baseless. Yes, because you've thought about it. So just because you've thought about it does not necessarily mean that it is the case. So it's kind of the origin of religion itself. That it is something that was conceived out of minds, in trying to understand reality as they're experiencing it as relatively new consciousness.
I've got this phrase I say to people where I'm like, it's not that man is God made, it's that God is man made.
Yeah.
Right?
The reason why there is even so much of an argument is because you put yourself in a position where you have to defend something that does not exist. I mean, you have to think about it that way. In all intents and purposes, that it really does not exist.
Like the afterlife.
Yes, like the afterlife. Like it really does not exist.
Going to heaven.
In what form are we? Like, what is even going to dissipate from you? When you are literally a machine, you can even see yourself when you're functional. You've got eyes, you've got nose, you've got hair, you've got hands, you've got everything about you that suggests that you are, a being entity.
Yeah.
So now when your machinery dies, what is that which you think is in you that is going to somehow just disappear? Have you ever seen anything like that? For me, that's the question. Have you ever seen anything like that? Where? Tell me. Because we would be blown right now.
Yeah.
It's like I always say, if witchcraft was real, I mean, some of our grandparents would be in the United States, they would be in China, they'd be in Japan, they'd be in Slovenia.
Here's one that goes to the heart of every African. If witchcraft was real, colonization would have never happened.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Full stop.
It would have never happened. Because by some guys named Futisha. But you would think that no, witchcraft is real because someone told you a story of Indonesia. Surely that is what you would use that power for. Like, how limited are you in thinking? How limited are you in thinking? You should be talking about controlling the entire world, as you see our friends want to do. You know, they build nuclear weapons. They are serious things, you know, to control and dominate the world. But you're going to think that with this very powerful tool that you have got, the only thing that you can use it for is to fly at night to your neighbor's house. I mean, in what world would that even begin to make any sense? I mean, that is the ridiculousness of these stories that we tell each other and we say this is real. I would be flying across the ocean if you are teleporting. That is what I would use witchcraft for. You know, I would use witchcraft to fly out into space, go to Mars. Yama guys were in spaceship in the room. They won't witchcraft in the space. Because witchcraft in that
anything can happen.
Witchcraft kind. I mean, I would be the most powerful
wizard.
Yeah, wizard. I mean, because I would do practical things with it. You know, but here we are. We tell ourselves that these things are real. Nishi, how are we thinking that they are real? Because those that we believe are witches, surely, is that what you can use that power for?
Yeah.
I don't think so, because they are thinking beings. You know, so it's the same thing with religion, that it is something that we conjured out of our minds, and that's why we find it so difficult to explain it to any other thinking human being as well. You know, because every child that is born, and I hate these titles, but is born a non-believer, basically. You know, you are the one that begins to inculcate those notions, and through their entire life, they're not going to encounter God or Jesus or an angel or a demon or the devil. They're not going to encounter any of that, because
I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and she's a staunch religionist. I won't even say the religion. So I'm trying to keep it as vague as possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that people don't feel like we're attacking their belief system.
I think it is, you know, it's necessary sometimes to attack each other intellectually. Because if you've got an intellectual position, there's no reason why you should be afraid.
But you and I know that you cannot have an intellectual conversation
because it's
based on religion. That's the two opposite things.
Yeah.
Intellect and imagination are two different things. But I was saying to this person, I don't believe in the existence of a God the way you describe it, right? I'm of the belief there is something that is responsible for this existence. I do not know what it is, right? And therefore I do not presume what it might be, because that's been the folly of the man who lived before me. Right? He looked at the sun and said it was a god, and then went and slaughtered millions of people in the name of that thing. I'm just trying to keep my thoughts and my hands clean. You know what I mean? So I was explaining to her, and she said, "So you've never experienced God before?" And I said, "No, I haven't." And that's one of the core reasons that I don't believe, because I personally have never seen an angel, never felt the grace of God. I've been prayed for countless times, as you can imagine, being a kid who had said things like this as a kid, taken into many pastors' rooms, prayed for multiple times, and I've never experienced that. The tingling that people tell me, nothing has ever happened to me. And she looked at me with these eyes like, "Man, I just can't wait until you do." And it made me even question, like, what is it that people are experiencing that is leading them to believe this is God?
So the
hot flashes.
The concept of God in the way that it has evolved into today, that it is sentient and caring, all-knowing, and all of that, is a focal point for believers to which anything can be attributed to. because it is said to have willed and created everything, which is strange.
Because it's part of everything.
Yeah, it's part of everything. Like, you know, you was on YouTube station.
You know, the one thing that we don't have in this reality, things that create themselves.
Yeah. I mean, people give these now they're old silly analogies to say, you know, you are walking in the forest, or you the watchmaker. You are on the beach, and you know, in the middle of nowhere, there are no people, and you find a watch. Would you say that that watch assembled itself, or you know, somebody created it? You know, and it's a silly analogy because you've seen watches. Yeah, you know,
you know what a watch
you know where to go. If you found dogs making watches, you would say,
if you were shocked by that watch, that would be the first time in your life that a watch has shocked.
Yes. Like, wow. Like, yeah.
Which would be shocking to us. If you came to us and said, you guys, there is a god of watches out there. I'm like, you touch me people.
You know, so everything is kind of attributed to it. So let's say, for example, you like nature. So you've gone to a very beautiful place and you're just wowed by the way things look, and you feel tranquility, you know, within you. You can easily attribute that feeling to, if you are such a strong believer,
to God.
Yeah. To say, you know,
the garden was so peaceful. Surely the presence of God was in that place.
Surely. Yeah, surely. So everything is attributed to, you know, gods.
All the good things.
Yes. Well, even the bad things. But what they did was they divided.
The wrath of God.
They just cut God in half. Like, okay, so this is the bad side. This is the good side. But it's one and the same thing. One guy. Yes, one guy. Because this one guy is the guy that created this guy.
Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin. Because he killed you guys a bunch of times. According to you, he murdered you a bunch of times.
So it's not that strange that someone will look at you and they will wonder. What they're wondering is not really that you've not experienced God. They've just forgotten. What they're wondering is that, you've never felt good? Yes. You've never felt good?
That's a silly question.
So,
you know what I mean?
And that's where the problem is. That's where the problem is in attribution. So you would think that someone has never experienced good before if they don't have God. You see. So they even wonder about you. How is your life? So, and they will have strange, silly questions.
Foolish questions.
So, I don't even know where to begin. But so where do you think we come from? I'm like, you know for a fact where we come from. If we were to come from somewhere, you know for a fact where we come from. It is okay not to know sometimes, you know, because it's what we do. We don't know everything immediately. But we have to take the honest approach at learning and decoding reality, not where we tell ourselves lies and stories, because that's just going to take even longer for us to reach to a point of civility. And that's the reason why when you look around Africa, you know, they say it's a little bit backward compared to the rest of the world. It's simply because we are engrossed in belief systems. The other side doesn't work that way. They don't engross themselves in belief systems. They created these belief systems, yes, but they evolved over time and moved beyond because
they understand what the belief systems are for.
Yes, they understand what the belief systems are for. But they've moved beyond that. They know that for you to be civilized, you have to work within the real world and use the knowledge that you have in the real world. Do not walk around spending half of your time thinking about things that do not exist, because then you will not create or make anything. You know, you are thinking, let's say you are dreaming about a job that you do not have.
Yeah.
So while you could be working at the job that you have, you are busy dreaming about the job that you could have. So it means you are wasting your time here. You find that you fail here and you never even move on to the next level. So the other side knows that we have to work within what we have got, not with what we are imagining. You will find that there's a lot with what you got. You know, so the fact that it exists in a very fluid state and it can be bent to any shape or form to suit any situation is what makes it very corrupt.
Yeah. I mean, look at its integration into the internet. Right? I see very interesting religious things on the internet. I see prayers being posted on WhatsApp statuses. I wonder what that is. Who is that for? Who is reading this? What is happening? You know what I mean? Like, is God on WhatsApp?
Can I ask you a question?
You know what I'm saying? Is God on
Can I ask you a question? What do you think? What is prayer?
Contemplation at best. At best, I think it's contemplation. It's silent contemplation.
So the question is, does prayer work without that prior knowledge? Let's just, what would you say if you just said, okay, does prayer work?
I don't think it works as what it's being described as.
Actually, that is the correct way of answering that question, because prayer works.
Contemplation works.
No. Prayer works because what prayer is contemplation. Prayer is meditation. You tell yourself to say, okay, I'm going to go into a separate room, you know, and privately get to my humble self and talk to God, right? Or talk to a God. If somebody came into that room...
Prepare yourself.
Yes.
I got some for you. Keep going.
Great. If somebody came into that room and you're on your knees and you are praying to God, they would see you talking to yourself. They would not see God or a God, because that is fashioned by your mind. But what you are essentially doing is you are talking to yourself.
Yeah.
And normal human beings, don't really have a way of talking to themselves.
You need to do it through a medium.
So, for example, in the Far East there, they do meditation. Where they sit, he's meditating, he's thinking, he's talking to himself.
You make everything sound worse than it is.
The West thought about prayer, communing with the Creator. But what that is just you talking to yourself. And the reason why it works is because these are what you call affirmations. You are affirming some things to you by bringing them to light. So if you think you have been bad and you have to go to God and ask for forgiveness, that is you addressing the fact that you have done some bad things. And tomorrow you must wake up better because you spoke to yourself about it, as opposed to someone who did bad things and they just went to bed. They will wake up bad.
Badder than
they were.
I saw this meme.
Yeah.
It's like the first what do you call it? The first slide is of the guy sitting on his bed thinking, contemplating.
Yeah.
He's just woken up.
Yeah.
And he says, man, them wicked. And then the next it's him getting up, but me wickeder than them. Now you see, in this world where truly that's how we're existing.
Yeah.
Right? In the reality of things. We have talked about affirmations, we have talked about prayer, but the reality deep down, we all know this, that we're existing in a world that thrives of badness. What we describe as badness. From the second you get out of your house in the morning, something's trying to get you, one way or the other. And when you make it home, you even sigh. Right? So what is this thing we're doing? What's this?
You know, it's sad that we think bad is bad.
I love this podcast.
It's sad that we think bad is bad. There would be no world absolutely anywhere where there would be no bad. Because if there was, then you would not know what good is. Just as if there was no good anywhere, you would not know what bad is. So, for you to exist comfortably in reality and your consciousness.
Are we the only creatures in the animal kingdom that have good and bad?
No. In other animals at a basic level, in the way that they operate. You know, this is even a vibrative kind of, conversation. And this is why I'm saying it's sad that we think that what is bad is bad. No, it's just the balance of nature, because you can't have totally good. How would you know that this is good if you don't know what is bad?
And what is good? Like, subjectively speaking, what is good? Right? It's good for you. Is everything that's good for you good for everybody else? It's another thing that's from inside of our minds.
No, I mean,
you know what I mean? It's not in this world. There is no good or bad. Things happen. Events occur.
Yes, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Those events sometimes affect things in a positive light or in a negative light, depending how
you're survival. It's all about survival. In fact, in thinking about living and being as a person, it's really all around wellness. Yes, it's really all just around
survival.
Wellness. Yes, that if you have wellness, you have longevity, which is survival. You have
survival.
Yes, you have to live every.
You're trying to be here for as long as possible.
Yes, but the way you're going to have to prolong your life is through wellness. So how much in tune and in harmony are you with your environment, your ambience? It's about the land, it's about the animals, it's about the water, it's about the trees, it's about the people, it's about everything that is around you. That are the things that are around you able to sustain your life? The people around you, are they able to sustain your life? The trees around you, are they able to sustain your life? To create longevity is to find a wellness program in the existence of the many things in which you are. That you are not in conflict with your neighbor, you are not in conflict with your nature. You are therefore going to thrive and live a little bit longer. So, for example, even when people attribute morality to religion, to say, then if you're not religious, then where do you get your morals from? No, nobody gets their morals from an imagination like a god. You get your morals from nature. The very same thing that I'm trying to break down, that you have within you a very strong desire to be at peace with everyone around you, for you to be able to get along with people.
But you see, that's just a human attribute. There's no other thing that possesses those attributes in nature. Everything else is chaotic.
As we are too.
We are the only ones who ascribe to this notion of peace. You know what I mean? Everything else is chaotic. And I think this notion of peace and this notion of moralities has sort of upset the balance. We were built to be just like everything else, the strong killing off the weak, you know what I mean? Maintaining a good enough number for these resources. We have sent everything out of balance with these goddamn morals and not killing each other. You know what I mean? On a basic level. I think we're the only creatures on this spinning ball that aspire to peace.
I mean, even animals in some sense do.
You're doing what the religious people do.
No.
You are assuming on behalf of them.
No, I'm not assuming. You could see it in nature. There are studies around these things. Yeah, no, there are studies around these things. Yeah, there are studies around these things. You've seen how a lion protects its pride. You know, if another lion walks into there, wants to mate with its shanchanyuko, or one of its shanchanyuko, it will attack, you know, and chase off that animal. That's all for the well-being of that particular pride, being led by this one alpha male lion. That for us to be able to live longer, we must be able to be tight with one another. So they've got a bond they've got their own communities as well. So anytime you see a community coming to rise, that is looking for wellness. Because when you are living independently, you do whatever you want. And when you do whatever you want, you find yourself in conflict with the other ones that the other people want to do. So you build a community out of structure. Human beings go above and beyond because they've got bigger brains and create societies, all right? Societies that are governed by laws, you know, and we have various institutions, and it's all done for the protection of, you know, human beings as a species, to say the only way we can actually thrive is to exist in a community. Because if you begin to exist independently, there will be too much conflict. Because who's to say that you know, you've attacked this person when for free you can just attack them? So you don't be living then in fear, because now you know. So we then protect.
I think we live in fear because we have looked around us.
No, I mean, you have to live in fear because you can't absolutely solve the problem.
At the place where we are and realize this is how it goes down here. Everything eats each other. The earth opens up and swallows things. Sometimes it spits out fire. Sometimes ice starts falling from the sky. Sometimes strong wind can blow some shit away. This thing is a violent, moving thing. Right? We have created a small sanctuary in our brain. This is we made this word our home.
Yes.
You know what I mean? We create this phrase.
Yes.
And with the word home comes phrases like security, peace, family,
happiness,
structure, happiness. These are human traits. These are very human traits, and they come from our need to self-preserve.
Like everything else has a need to self-preserve, but the only difference is that we have a bigger brain. So our processing, our processing is very different. It's a little bit elevated. You know, it's not the same as that of an animal, and that's why you can't talk to an animal. It would take you some time to teach it, to make it understand what you're trying to, you know, communicate to it, and you know, eventually then that happens. But it's because it's got a small brain. You know, it's like trying to talk to a fly. You're not going to be able to communicate anything except because according to it, something has come here, I need to move. You know, fast. So, hey, I see you moving in slow motion.
2020 vision.
So anyway, really back to the concept of a creator. If you ask me, I just find it literally impossible for there to be such a thing, because what put it in such a place as though it is torture to exist perpetually? You know, because the concept of infinity is hard to grasp. And then people say this very interesting thing to me, and I find it quite very like you're having a real lack of understanding on the issue when they say, oh, God exists outside space and time. You know what you're essentially saying? That God does not exist. Yes, because you can't exist outside time. The reason is because then it means you are not in motion. Yeah. What we call time is the count of activities. When there are things that are happening, all right, that series of happenings is what we slap on top as time. It's simply describing activity. So to say something exists outside time, it means it does not exist, it does not operate.
Whatsoever, yeah.
It does not operate. Everything has to exist in time, because time is not as we know it. Time is just a series of events, activities. We, consciousness, we break them down to try and understand and call it time. And then you say space. Remember that famous book of ours, Nothingness? Being and nothingness.
Famous book of
yes.
yours. I haven't read that.
Yeah, no. It's a very funny thing.
You are digital already.
Yeah. He had a go at it. That book is stupid in the sense that it tries to explain nothing, and it uses a lot of words and so many chapters, and it all talks about absolutely nothing. It's garbage basically. But I think that was the point that John Paul Sartre was trying to make in that book, or he just basically failed to describe what really nothing is, because nothing is no space. For anything to exist, it has to be in a space. Full capacity. There's no space. There's nowhere where you can fit in. So existing outside space is not existing outside the universe. You need to understand that. Existing outside space is not existing outside the universe. That is still in space. Also, existing outside the universe is not existing outside time.
It's not possible.
Yes.
But I guess that's exactly what you're describing, right? That's a concept, a figment of man's imagination. It doesn't have to play to the rules.
Yes. And you see, that's the thing. You have to ask yourself, why is this the one thing that breaks all the rules?
Yeah.
And so they use words like supernatural. These are supernatural things.
There is nothing scientific. Like the word super, it's from comic books.
Yes.
The second, it's such a media word. The second you find it in a description, just be careful. Just side eye that supernatural.
Yes, supernatural.
What does that mean? Super acteric chirindramatural dust. What did that mean? Let's ask the pertinent question.
It's like, for example, talking about what is known as a spirit. What is a spirit?
The God particle.
At least you've answered it. The God particle is the smallest particle there is hypothesized. The Higgs boson. Yes. But what is a spirit?
I can't believe that I recall that from one random conversation with you 6 years.
6 years ago.
God.
6 years ago. I know, we've been at it. For a very long time. For a very long time.
Now.
I mean, I guess that's the reason why we are also just kind of making this podcast. Because it's not trying to talk about the usual things the usual way. You know, there has to be some level of honest understanding and thinking about some things and evaluating them. And it takes some time.
One of the main reasons I dropped out of law school is they were talking about human concepts in those books when I read them. But they were talking about them in such a strange way. You know what I mean? Volenti non fit injuria.
Why?
Right? This is the clause that boxers sign, saying if they die, it means he who gives consent suffers no injury. You know what I mean? So boxers, when they enter a ring, they have to sign in the event that they die, there can be no prosecution.
Yes.
Now, why is all this being said in such an obscure manner? You know what I mean? I really didn't like that. And I find a similar trait in religion. That human beings claim to clinging to it is that it has positives on humanity. Right? My first argument for that is no. My second argument for it is, why does it have to be so obscure? Right? As we human beings develop, the thing is to simplify technology. You know what I mean? Why is your technology becoming more complex?
More complex.
And then it's meant to help us. That's only meant to confuse us. Why didn't they just say, don't kill each other, instead of, no, there were two people who are working in the, you know what I mean? Like, why is this a thing I have to decipher to figure out?
It's what school does. School is not directly meant to educate you on the things that it educates you. It tries to basically open your mind up to thinking.
To other things.
Basically just thinking. Because this is a place where you are spending time thinking. I mean, that's the reason why we hate school. Because you've got to go there and think, you know. So it's a place where you are taught the practice of thinking. Because out of thinking you make things, right? But you have to practice thinking. So I had an objective to the example that you gave, that because this is something that requires this is something that requires expert practice, and this expert practice will need to classify what you would think are abstract things, but they actually exist because they are out of interactions of humanity. So it is not something that you can simply describe in a series of words or a sentence, but just by saying one phrase, it puts all of that as an event into one thing. So as a lawyer, for example, you have to know about that. So me as a regular person, I know it as the way that you have described it. But as a practitioner, you need to, it's not something you must take time thinking about. It is in one phrase. So you have many of those things. So they have many of those things that they have to study to an expert level that differentiates them from the ordinary person that can as well understand those things.
I really hate that the best argument for religious text is coming from an atheist. I really hate that. I really hate it. But only on the Kachasu Philosophers.
Yeah. And you know, the reason why some of these phrases are quite funny, if someone asked me what I am, I don't think the first thing that I would run to is, I am an atheist. Because being an atheist is simply a response to being religious. And that is
being
not
a theist.
Being a theist. Yeah. But that's not the only thing that exists around life. There are many things that life is,
it's even
about.
It's even kind of like on the nose if you think about it. Being a theist, right, is a believer in the word.
Yeah.
Right? So calling someone an atheist and then calling someone an atheist because they don't believe in what you believe in is a little bit big-headed.
Yeah.
Because you are saying you are the only one with the theory. You know what I mean? And that person is an atheist. What if you're the atheist?
Because essentially that is what you are. And we are atheists to many things. And people say this, that, for example, if you are a Christian, it means that you believe in Yahweh. You are atheist to the Hindu God, the Hindu God, or the Muslim God, or Buddha, or any of that kind of stuff.
Except an actual atheist.
Yes, exactly.
To an actual atheist, you are delusional.
Because you are just moving. I'm just one step. Like you are many steps away from being a believer into somebody else's God. I am also just one step, into not accepting your hypothesis.
You're the non-believer.
Yeah, you. I mean,
because you don't believe in sense. You don't believe in common sense, right? You know, and I know that we have never seen this nigga you keep talking about.
And this is why I keep saying that it's hard for me to have an argument with someone, because half the time I will be saying to myself, but the same things that I know. But it's because you've taken a position, therefore you are compelled to stand by your position. And what you don't want is to make your entire life seem like a lie. No, we just learn new things. Life changes just like that. It's not that you've lived your life as a lie. No, life changes. And other people also bring up this question to say, imagine if you died and there was a God.
That's a very. What do you mean? Imagine if you died. Those questions I equate to. So can your father beat Scorpion? Imagine if you died. Where do you imagine?
They call it. There's what they call the Pascal's wager. You probably heard of it, which is hinged on that very same premise.
Hinged on the unhinged.
You would have wasted, but if you did believe, you would lose absolutely nothing. And that's where my biggest worry and concern really comes from, the fact that people think that you lose absolutely nothing living your entire life imagining things into existence
that don't exist.
I don't know how you are looking at me, who is just also trying to honestly understand reality and not take positions if there is no confirmation or any evidence to suggest so. I just leave it and continue to do real things. Go through real problems, go through real wins, go through real struggles, living in life, talking to real people, being nice, being bad in a real way,
existing in reality.
Existing in reality, rather than me imagining a life after the machine that makes me alive and present and be.
After these cells break down, I'm imagining a thing. Like with what brain?
At what point does even forever begin? It's funny because you were born in 1984, all right? All throughout history, you did not exist. Now that you were born in 1994, now you must live forever.
You should start thinking about forever.
That when you die, you're going to continue. There's going to be an after. You were born in 1984. There's been time before 1984.
Yeah.
So, at what point is forever?
That's another thing that religion sort of glosses over, is that existence outdates religion. A very small fact that you are overlooking.
Yes.
Right? It's the equivalent of a son coming to talk about the life of the grandfather. It's the equivalent.
Yes.
Because we have been here longer than we started thinking. Than we started even thinking.
Yes.
We have been here for bells.
Yes.
And you're let's be. It's really frustrating when I had this discussion with a friend of mine. This is a colleague, right? Like in the art circle. So this is a high functioning brain. You know, this is not just your Jim and Jack off the streets. This is a high functioning brain. He found a way to wrap religion to the beginning of time. All right, and it's like, no, there's text that describes it. And I was like, when did writing start?
Yes.
Let's just start there. When did writing begin?
Yeah.
What were they doing before that?
Yes.
What was responsible before that?
Yes. Like there has been a lot of existence before.
Religion has got no sense of time.
Yes.
It's got no sense of time. It's got it doesn't respect the laws of time. It breaks them wherever it cares. You can meet somebody once, they talk about him at the bed, and then there's a blank chapter in his life. He pops up when he's 33. It's like, what's this? There's nowhere else. If you read the history of Shaka, and it said this guy was born in this and this year, and then we didn't hear from him for another 25 years. We catch up with him in the story. You'd be like, whoa, wait a minute.
Where's he been?
Where's this guy been? You know what I mean? What's been going on? But somehow religion is like, don't ask because you won't understand the answer. And it's such an insult to humankind.
They put it in this way. You cannot understand things of God. But how are you even beginning to purport them?
Not only that. How are you understanding them?
Yes, how are you understanding them? How are you understanding them? Then what kind of relationship do you have with the
Don't get them started with that one. It's a personal relationship. It's a personal relationship.
And you know, the moment I hear any Christian walk up to me and say it's a personal relationship, then I know they are on their way out. Because it means that they are now not subscribing to the doctrines of the church. Okay? They think that they are beginning to see some things that are not making sense. So they retreat from going to church and they start practicing on their own. So they will say, I have a personal relationship with God. Then I know that they are on their way out. Because how do you have a relationship with something that you cannot understand? Do you tell me, how do you have a relationship with something you cannot understand?
It's called delusion. It's called delusion. If you're being serious, in any other corner of society, if you said that to anyone, if you went and sat in front of a man in a white coat, and he asked you, Mr. Moto, you've been having problems. What's going on with you? And you say, there's a man in the sky who tells me that he's going to burn me after I leave this plane of existence. So I am staying up sleepless nights because I'm trying to do the things he wants to tell me. They will prescribe you some strong sedatives.
The new season of Black Mirror. There is an episode there that seemed quite stupid and nowhere and pointless. Demon 79. Is it Demon 79? Something like that.
Which one was Demon 79?
Where there was this Indian British woman.
The lady who worked in the store.
Yes. You know, that was a very interesting...
Demon reminded me of you. If you had a British accent, that would be you.
You know, it started out as we were watching it, we believed that this was the case, that this demon is actually real. This woman is actually seeing this person. This is real. Because we have seen most movies fashioned in that way, and so we think that this is a reality. But you know what it was? That woman had simply lost her mind. She did all sorts of crazy things. She went in the park and killed someone because the demon had told her, so you need to kill 3 people.
And
a normal human being who has never murdered anywhere, has never murdered anyone, and all of a sudden just starts killing people.
How do you explain the last scene? How do you explain the last scene, if that's your perception?
Where everything just...
the things she had said were going to happen.
They actually, for me...
Or rather, the things the demon said were going to happen. You think she was hallucinating?
Yes, they didn't happen. And that was the conviction that it was actually giving, that you must be careful with the things that you think are real. Because this woman was living in a real world before. And all of a sudden, it changed into, a demon appears from somewhere. Like, when did the reality that we had just all of a sudden disappear? And then we descend into unreal things. And this woman starts killing people, and she's thinking to herself that it's because of a demon. But that demon was not being seen by anyone.
Yeah.
So the confusion was, it ended that way simply because that's what we believe. And that's the problem. That is what we believe.
I mean, I've got a different takeaway from that one because of cinema rules and, the way it ended. I don't think they would show you that to show that it was a hallucination.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
and that's
it's to cause you to think. And for me, that's why I'm saying my interpretation of that was out of the thinking of the geniusness of that creation. That really and truly, this wasn't real. This woman was hallucinating. And she went on a rampage. But we were seeing the world through her eyes. And so the way it had to end was through her own conviction, because what we want to be at the end of the day is right. And that's why we stick by religion. Even though we can't prove it, but we'll stick by it because we want to be right. There's no way I can be believing and spending my time in false things. But simply because you've never stopped to think, what if they are false? And it is okay to think. Begin from that and then begin to prove some things. Don't tell yourself mysterious things. There are no mysterious things. You've never come across mysterious things.
Yeah. Your whole life.
Yes, yeah. and people just exaggerate. And you must know that some people are mentally bad, they're mentally sick. And you must be aware of that. That there are many diseases. It's not just physical diseases, but also there are mental illnesses.
Yeah. I mean, when you say it's not just physical diseases, mental illnesses are physical diseases. It's this thing we've been saying to this. Yeah, it's this thing. No, as in it's still part of your body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This thing we call mental health. It's still health.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's still an organ in your body.
It's just like it's an abstract.
Yeah, talk about the liver health. Why you know what I mean? The liver is equally an organ. The lungs, the lung health. This you've been breathing too much. There's no such thing.
The only reason why we distinguish it is because to the brain, it has the other component, which is, I said, a mind. Yes, the mind is different from your liver. It's different from your heart. The mind produces its own other fictional products that do not exist in the plane. And you can begin to operate with those fictional products that your mind has conjured. Created. That's how we sleep and dream. The mind creates, because dreams are usually unreal. In fact, that's your heaven, if you think about it, because that's where you fly, that's where you almost die but don't die. You come back.
The only way to go there is dying. A place where we can't move.
So these are just really strange ideas, and they've existed for a very long time. I mean, everything changes except the word, they say. Ask yourself, how is it not going to change? How can it be right perpetually? Yeah. It's impossible. It's not a perfect
even the word itself, to say the Christians, for instance, even their word had to be edited within itself.
Yeah.
The first testament of it, the second one comes back to say, no, those things were saying, imagine if there was a third testament.
I respect, for example, the Bible so much as a literature book. It is something that has shown true prowess in poetry and just literature in general, and also trying to decode the times, the wisdom that some people exercised in the writing of, or chronicling of what really happened, and the interpretation. As a book written by human beings, I think we should be proud in some sense about some of the writings and how it has actually been framed and put together. But when you read it, you will understand how primitive it is. Because some of the things that it basically talks about as being normal and should be perpetuated are none of the things that we are doing today.
Yeah. I mean, much like any other thing created by human beings, it's trapped in time.
Yes, of course.
You can tell that the things the Bible purports to be good and the truth and what we need to do as mankind were things that needed to be done at that time. But as a species, we have been evolved. We have evolved beyond intermarriage relationships being strictly the man is the one who goes out to chapel. We have evolved beyond that. We've evolved beyond, if you look at your husband's wife, you need to. That no longer happens. The societies where you can be, you know what I mean? They can even be four of you in there. It's not a problem. You know what I mean? We have evolved beyond being scared of pigs.
Yes, exactly.
Because we have got medicine that can clean them. Back then, those things were eating anything. So they were killing people. What's the best way to tell the people not to eat?
Why am I demons?
You know what I mean? Because if it's killing people, it must be bad. If it's bad, God abhors it.
But yeah, they were mad.
But oh my God.
In fact, in those days, yeah, the women are sad. In fact, they must have been amazing.
It was so tasty. They had to put this. They had to put a line in the Bible for it.
Yes.
It was so tasty.
Pork chops. Pork chop.
I've told you about cooking pigs. It's done them, But at the end of the day, I also do realize the utility of religion, the utility of belief systems. I just worry about their effects over time. Effects over time, for instance, and I hope we can talk about this in another episode because we're overrun, but effects over time in interpersonal relationships, effects over time in marriage, effects over time in race relations, effects, the other environments in which religious text has been utilized to propagate an agenda, an ideology. I worry so much because of how easy it is to tie religious text to hate. Segregation. You know what I mean?
It's like when somebody walks up to you and they realize that you are an unbeliever. They become concerned that
because they can't see the aura around my head.
They become concerned that you then belong to the devil. And the funny thing about that is the devil is only in religion. It's your thing. You are the ones that think about evil, devils, demons, and these things do not exist outside of religion.
That's not a problem of mine.
And it's not a problem of mine. I'm not walking around being afraid of demons. No. They could just, pop up from nowhere, or I could be whispered into my ear to do evil things because, I'm the devil's workshop.
I have never at any point in my life wanted to eat an unborn baby. Never. It has never crossed my mind. I've never wanted to sacrifice anyone. That's your.
So, and that's the one thing that you must be careful with, and that's where you have a lot of people departing even from the Bible and just resorting to saying, I have a personal relationship with God, because to exterminate this idea of a God is very, very difficult because you have grown up with this concept. You have been brought up to believe this thing. So to depart from it is to deconstruct your reality, and it's very, very, very difficult to do oftentimes, and so most people worry so much about that. And it's a good journey that you will take in basically just thinking and asking as many questions as you possibly can, because there's no reason for you to be subscribing to clubs. like this. It makes you become one-track minded. Because when a Hindu person walks up to you to try and have a conversation with you, you already have this notion in your head. Oh, this guy is what. Or somebody who is an unbeliever, they walk up to you to have a conversation. And so you have this preconception of,
sinners understand the truth.
But you must understand that is a very small part of your life. It's just a belief. It's just a belief. There's a reason why it is called a belief. There's no knowledge there. If there was knowledge, you would call it a knowledge, not a belief.
You'd call it the truth.
Yeah, exactly. You just call it the truth.
Not that I believe.
Yeah, not that I believe. I know. Yes. So there should be a good amount of knowledge in it for it to absolutely make sense. You shouldn't be believing in things. You should be knowing about things. Have facts, established facts about things. That's the only way you're going to be safe and have a bit of longevity. As a human being. Because you're not going to go on a tower there, I believe I can fly. No, you can't fly. You need wings.
Hello.
So you're not going to do that. If you do that, then you're just, trying to kill yourself.
Yes, that's key. And so on the next episode, we're going to be discussing quantum mechanics.
Wonderful.
I'm joking, guys. That's it for this week. Thank you for joining us, if you joined us. If you have decided never to listen to this podcast because we have offended your sense of belief, then, hey, man.
This is for you then.
Get it? Amen.